My name is Blaine, and at 32 years old, I built TechVantage Solutions from nothing into an $8 million company. Every sacrifice I made was for my family. Imagine my shock when at our celebration dinner, my father casually announced they had given my sister Amanda 30% of my shares. "You can always make money, she can't." He smirked dismissively. I simply replied, "Is that so?" That night, I withdrew all our expansion funding. They never saw what was coming next. Before I tell you how I turned this betrayal into the greatest decision of my life, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if family business drama gets your attention. I grew up in a middle-class suburb outside Boston, where success had a very specific definition. According to my parents, Richard and Diane Matthews believed in the traditional path: good grades, prestigious college, secure corporate job, retirement plan. Our modest split-level home housed a family where expectations were clear and different for each child. From the beginning, my sister Amanda, just 2 years younger than me, was labeled the fragile one who needed protection and support. When she got B's, there were celebrations. When I got an A-, there were questions about what went wrong with that missing plus. This wasn't because my parents were cruel, but because they genuinely believed I was the strong one who could handle higher expectations. Even as a kid, I had the entrepreneurial bug. At 10, my lemonade stand evolved into a neighborhood beverage service where I delivered drinks to nearby homes during hot summer days. By 13, I had a lawn mowing business with 3 other kids working under me. In high school, I repaired computers for teachers and classmates. Each venture taught me about profit margins, customer service, and scaling operations. My parents viewed these enterprises as cute hobbies rather than legitimate business training. "It's good you're keeping busy," my mother would say, "but don't let it distract you from your schoolwork. That's your real job right now." Meanwhile, Amanda cycled through interests without ever developing proficiency in any of them. One month it was painting, the next ballet, then creative writing. Each new passion came with equipment, lessons, and unwavering parental support. When I suggested skipping college to start a tech company after high school graduation, my father looked at me like I had suggested jumping off a bridge. "Don't be ridiculous, Blaine. You need a degree to fall back on. Businesses fail all the time." To keep peace, I enrolled at Boston University and studied business, all while mapping out the company I would eventually build. College was 4 years of impatience for me. The theoretical discussions about business strategies felt disconnected from the practical experience I already had. Still, I graduated with honors, mostly to prove to my parents that I could excel at their chosen path while preparing for my own. After graduation, I accepted a corporate position at a financial software firm. The job was well-paying, but soul-crushing. Every day in that gray cubicle felt like a betrayal of my true calling. But I needed to save startup capital and learn the industry from the inside. For 2 years, I lived minimally, banking nearly 70% of my salary while building my business plan nights and weekends. During those same 2 years, Amanda graduated with an art history degree and announced she wanted to be a fashion designer. My parents immediately funded design classes and materials. 6 months later, she abandoned fashion for acting classes. When those didn't immediately lead to roles, she decided Los Angeles was where she needed to be to get discovered. Each pivot came with full financial backing from my parents. "Amanda needs to find herself," my mother would explain when I questioned the wisdom of funding another abandoned dream. "She's artistic and sensitive. Not everyone can be as focused as you are, Blaine." The family dynamic was crystal clear. I was expected to make my own way because I could. Amanda deserved support because she couldn't. Rather than fighting this perception, I channeled my frustration into determination. I would prove my business acumen, not through arguments, but through undeniable success. When I finally gave notice at my corporate job, my father was predictably disapproving. "You're walking away from security, from benefits, from a proven career path," he lectured over Sunday dinner. "I'm walking toward something better," I countered. "I've saved enough to bootstrap the company for a year. I have 3 potential clients already interested. And when it fails? When you come asking for money?" My father challenged. I looked him straight in the eye. "That won't happen." And it didn't. What happened instead was something neither of us could have predicted on that Sunday evening, as we argued over pot roast and potatoes. I was about to build something valuable enough that they would want to take it. TechVantage Solutions began in my small apartment, with a desk in the corner of my living room. My savings of $40,000 seemed substantial until I calculated how quickly it would disappear without revenue. The pressure to succeed wasn't just about proving my parents wrong. It was about basic survival. Failure would mean crawling back to corporate America and enduring my father's "I told you so" for the next 20 years. The first 3 months were brutal. I cold called businesses all day, created sample applications at night, and battled constant anxiety. Each rejection felt personal. Each unanswered email was a judgment. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. My diet consisted mainly of ramen and coffee. But beneath the struggle was an undeniable sense that I was finally living authentically. My breakthrough came when a mid-sized local insurance company took a chance on my proposal for a custom client management system. The project was modestly budgeted, but offered something more valuable than money: legitimacy. Having a real client with a real contract transformed TechVantage from an idea into a business. That first year, I worked 80-hour weeks without a single day off. When my refrigerator broke, I stored my food in a cooler for 2 weeks rather than divert money from the business. Every dollar was reinvested. Every minute was dedicated to delivery and finding the next client. While friends posted vacation photos on social media, I was debugging code at 2 in the morning. The sacrifice was total and entirely mine to make. By the 18-month mark, I had enough consistent work to hire 2 developers. We moved into a small office space, nothing fancy, but the monthly rent payment gave me both pride and panic. Now I was responsible not just for my own livelihood but for others as well. The weight of that responsibility drove me even harder. TechVantage specialized in custom business software solutions with a growing focus on cybersecurity, a niche I recognized as underserved in the mid-market business segment. Our clients weren't large enough to have dedicated security teams, but had enough data vulnerability to need protection. This positioning allowed us to charge premium rates while providing genuine value. Year 3 marked a major milestone: $1 million in annual revenue. We had grown to a team of 12, with a real office, benefits, and a reputation for delivering quality work on time. The constant stress began to ease just slightly, replaced by a different kind of pressure to sustain and grow what we had built. It was only then that my parents began showing genuine interest in my company. Initially, their questions seemed motivated by simple curiosity. How many employees did I have now? What exactly did the company do? Was I taking a reasonable salary? But gradually, I sensed a shift from skepticism to calculation. With your growth trajectory, you could use some experienced financial management. My father mentioned one Sunday dinner. As a retired financial controller for a manufacturing company, he had relevant skills. I could help you structure things properly, make sure you're not overpaying on taxes. After years of craving their approval, Their sudden interest was intoxicating. When I offered my father the CFO position with 25% equity, it wasn't just a business decision but an emotional one. Here was the chance to make my success a family victory, to transform years of dismissal into collaboration. My mother joined soon after as HR director, receiving 15% equity. I retained 60%, maintaining controlling interest while bringing my family into the fold. What could be more perfect than building wealth together? The company that was meant to prove my independence ironically became the vehicle for the family integration I had always wanted. With my parents involved, TechVantage expanded more rapidly. My father's financial connections opened doors to larger clients. My mother's people skills helped us recruit talented developers who might otherwise have gone to bigger tech firms. I remained the visionary, the technologist, and increasingly, the public face of our success. The personal sacrifices continued. At 30, while college friends were getting married and starting families, my dating life consisted of occasional first dates that rarely led to seconds. There simply wasn't time. My apartment, slightly larger now but still modest, functioned mainly as a place to sleep between workdays. Vacations were business trips with perhaps an extra day tacked on to see something besides the inside of a conference room. Meanwhile, my parents upgraded their lifestyle considerably. They sold their modest home and purchased a waterfront property. They traded in their practical sedans for luxury vehicles. They took cruises and posted photos from European capitals. I didn't begrudge them these pleasures. In fact, I took pride in facilitating them. Wasn't this proof that my risky business venture had been the right choice after all? 5 years in, TechVantage was valued at $5 million. We had 40 employees, a downtown office with our name on the building directory, and clients across 3 states. We added new service lines in data analytics and expanded our client base to include healthcare providers and financial services firms. I hired key executives from outside the family, professional managers with experience scaling technology companies. Though these hires diluted family control of day-to-day operations, they brought expertise we needed. Still, all strategic decisions required family approval, maintaining our position as the ultimate authority. Our latest round of growth brought the company valuation to $8 million, a number that still sometimes seemed unreal to me. We began receiving acquisition inquiries from larger tech firms, though none of us was interested in selling. We had built something with a future, something that could continue growing for years to come. Despite objective success beyond what even I had initially imagined, I still found myself seeking my parents' approval during our weekly strategy meetings. Their praise had become more frequent but never unconditional. There was always something more we could be doing, some opportunity we might be missing. I had created a multi-million-dollar company, and part of me was still the kid hoping for a gold star. What I couldn't see then, blinded by family loyalty and the desire for acceptance, were the subtle warning signs of what was to come. The questions about succession planning, the comments about family legacy, the increasing interest in ownership percentages and voting rights. I was building an empire without realizing there might be plans for a coup. The potential turning point for TechVantage arrived in the form of a major contract opportunity with Northstar Healthcare, a regional hospital network looking to overhaul their entire patient management and billing system. The contract was potentially worth $2 million, easily the largest in our company's history. Landing it would require all hands on deck, perfect execution of the proposal process, and flawless demonstrations of our capabilities. 3 days after we received the RFP from Northstar, Amanda returned home from Los Angeles. Her 4-year acting career had resulted in 1 commercial for a local furniture store and a handful of unpaid student films. She arrived with 4 suitcases, no apartment, and no plans beyond regrouping. My parents immediately shifted into protective mode. Dinner conversations revolved around helping Amanda find her path and supporting her through this transition. My father began canceling important client meetings to attend her therapy sessions. My mother suggested Amanda needed meaningful work to rebuild her confidence. We should bring her into the company, my mother proposed during a family dinner. Give her a sense of purpose, a way to contribute. I had reservations, but also sympathy. Who hasn't failed and needed a fresh start? Besides, the company was doing well enough to carry one underperforming employee, especially if it helped family harmony. I created a marketing role for Amanda, despite her complete lack of qualifications or experience in the field. Amanda approached her new position with the same enthusiasm she had shown for acting classes initially, followed by the same rapid disinterest. She arrived late, left early, and spent much of her time in between shopping online or taking personal calls. The few tasks she completed required extensive correction. When our marketing director attempted to provide guidance, Amanda complained to our mother about feeling criticized and unsupported. "You need to talk to Michael about how he speaks to Amanda," my mother told me, referring to our marketing director who had built our brand from scratch. "He doesn't understand her creative process. Her creative process seems to involve a lot of expensive coffee and not much actual content creation," I replied, attempting humor to soften the truth. My mother's expression hardened. "Amanda's dealing with a lot right now. She's fragile. Not everyone thrives under pressure the way you do." This conversation repeated itself with variations over the following weeks. Amanda's poor performance wasn't her fault. The expectations were too high. The environment was too structured. The work wasn't aligned with her gifts. Meanwhile, our paying clients continued expecting deliverables on schedule, regardless of anyone's creative process. As we prepared for the critical North Star proposal, more troubling patterns emerged. Decisions I had made were mysteriously reversed when I was out of the office. My father began accessing company financial accounts without discussing transactions with me first. I would return from client meetings to find my parents and Amanda in my office, conversations abruptly halting when I entered. One Tuesday morning, our business development director, Rachel, pulled me aside after a strategy session. "Blaine, I don't want to overstep, but have you authorized your father to explore selling the North Star contract if we land it?" "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely confused. He was on the phone yesterday with Soft Serve Industries discussing potential subcontracting arrangements. It sounded like he was offering them the implementation work if they would pay a finder's fee. Soft Serve was a direct competitor, one we had taken several clients from due to their poor quality work. The idea of handing them our biggest opportunity was unthinkable. When I confronted my father, he dismissed Rachel's concerns as a misunderstanding. "I was merely exploring partnership options," he said smoothly. "For a contract this size, we might need additional resources." The explanation was plausible enough that I couldn't directly challenge it, but it left me uneasy. Later that same week, I received a call from our bank questioning a transfer of $300,000 from our business account to a new LLC I knew nothing about. "There must be some mistake," I told the banker. "I never authorized that transfer. It was authorized by Richard Matthews as CFO," the banker explained. The documentation was all in order. When confronted, my father explained it as a tax planning strategy he hadn't had time to discuss with me yet. The funds were returned to our account the next day, but the incident deepened my growing sense of unease. I began paying closer attention to patterns I had previously ignored. The private conversations that stopped when I approached. The financial reports that were delivered later and later each month. The strange looks of pity I occasionally caught from administrative staff when they didn't realize I was watching. 2 weeks before the North Star presentation, our lead developer, Marcus, asked to speak with me privately. Marcus had been with me almost from the beginning, a brilliant programmer and one of the few people I trusted implicitly. "Something weird is happening with project access permissions," he said, showing me his laptop screen. "Half the development team has had their access levels changed, and there's a new admin account I don't recognize. I hadn't authorized any permission changes. Further investigation revealed the changes had come from my father's account, granting Amanda administrator access to our entire code repository, despite her having no technical role or capabilities. That evening, I received a text from my father. "Family dinner tomorrow night. Important company matters to discuss. 7 p.m. at our house. Don't be late." The message's tone was unusual enough to trigger alarm bells. In the past, family dinners were suggested by my mother, planned days in advance, with multiple reminders about my favorite dishes being prepared. This felt different, formal, almost ominous. I spent a restless night reviewing mentally everything that had happened over the past months. The strange financial movements, the unexplained meetings, the permission changes. Individually, each could be explained away. Together, they formed a pattern I could no longer ignore. The next morning, I called Marcus. "I need you to quietly back up all our intellectual property, client lists, and project documentation to a secure server only you and I can access." "Are we being hacked?" he asked, instantly alert. I paused, uncertain how to explain a threat I couldn't yet name. "Just a precaution. Let's call it disaster recovery planning." As evening approached, I felt a growing sense of dread. Whatever was waiting for me at my parents' house, I suspected it would change everything. Before leaving my office, I made one final decision, transferring $2 million from our investment account to a separate business account only I could access. The money was earmarked for expansion after the North Star contract, but something told me we might need it for survival instead. My parents' waterfront home glowed warmly against the darkening sky as I pulled into the circular driveway. The property, purchased with TechVantage profits, featured manicured gardens and a 3-car garage housing vehicles that cost more than my first year of business expenses. I reminded myself that this prosperity was something to be proud of, a visible symbol of what we had built together. Inside, the aroma of my mother's roast chicken filled the air. My favorite meal since childhood. The dining room table was set with the good china, crystal wine glasses catching the light from the chandelier above. Everything appeared normal, celebratory even, except for the thick folder placed at my father's seat and the unusual tension in my mother's smile. Amanda was already seated, wearing a new outfit I recognized from a high-end boutique's window display. She seemed nervous, fingernails tapping rhythmically against her water glass, until my mother placed a hand over hers to still the movement. "Blaine, right on time," my father boomed, emerging from his study with another folder tucked under his arm. We exchanged the usual handshakes and back pats that had replaced hugs in our family long ago. "Let's have a drink before dinner. I've opened that scotch you brought back from your Scotland trip." The Scotland trip had been TechVantage's 5-year anniversary celebration, a company-wide achievement I had funded. The scotch was a limited edition I had purchased, thinking we might open it together when we hit 10 million in valuation. Apparently, tonight's occasion warranted breaking into it early. Conversation during the first part of dinner remained superficial. My mother asked about the North Star proposal preparations. My father commented on recent stock market movements. Amanda mentioned a new yoga studio she was considering joining. The normalcy felt forced, like actors hitting marks while waiting for the main scene to begin. As my mother served her homemade apple pie, my father cleared his throat and straightened in his chair. "So Blaine, We've been doing some thinking about the future of TechVantage. The North Star contract would certainly secure that future, I replied, keeping my tone even despite the sudden tightness in my chest. Beyond any single contract, my father continued, we're talking about long-term sustainability, family legacy, proper distribution of resources. My mother reached over and squeezed Amanda's hand supportively. Amanda looked down at her untouched pie, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. What exactly are we discussing? I asked directly. My father opened the folder beside him and removed several legal documents. We've made some necessary adjustments to the company ownership structure. He slid the papers across the table. As you can see, we've transferred 30% of your shares to Amanda, giving her a proper stake in the family business. The words hit me like physical blows. 30% of my shares. Not theirs. Mine. The 60% I had maintained as founder and CEO, now reduced to 30%. I no longer held controlling interest in my own company. You've done what? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. It's all properly filed, my father continued, tapping the documents. As CFO, I have signatory authority for these transactions. Your mother and I maintain our shares, and Amanda now has 30%. The remaining 30% stays with you, which is more than fair considering everyone's contributions. Contributions? The word caught in my throat. Amanda has been with the company for 3 months. In a role she barely performs. Don't be petty, Blaine, my mother interjected. This is about family, not timesheets. I looked at the documents more carefully, noting they had been filed 2 weeks earlier. You did this without even discussing it with me? Without any vote or consultation? We knew you'd be emotional about it, my father said dismissively. Sometimes leadership means making unpopular decisions for the greater good. The greater good of whom, exactly? I asked, struggling to maintain composure. The family, of course, my mother answered. Amanda needs security for her future, a foundation she can count on. And I don't? The question emerged before I could stop it, exposing the wounded child beneath the CEO exterior. My father's response was delivered with the casual cruelty of someone stating what he believed was obvious truth. You can always make money, Blaine. You've proven that. Amanda can't. In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity what I had been to my family all along. Not the successful son they were proud of, but the reliable workhorse who could be counted on to produce without recognition or reward. The golden goose they could pluck whenever they needed. Years of seeking approval dissolved into a cold realization. I would never receive the recognition I craved, because they fundamentally believed success was simply my nature. Like breathing, requiring no special acknowledgement. Amanda's smallest efforts would always merit celebration, while my greatest achievements would be taken for granted. The memories flashed rapidly through my mind, working 80-hour weeks while they vacationed on company profits, building client relationships while they enjoyed the financial benefits, creating value they now felt entitled to redistribute without my consent. Amanda finally spoke, her voice practiced with rehearsed innocence. I didn't ask for this, Blaine. Mom and Dad insist I need it. For my future. The slight smile betrayed her satisfaction at finally having equal standing without equal effort. I could have exploded, could have flipped the table, shouted accusations, stormed out dramatically. The rage certainly burned hot enough to justify such a response. Instead, I did something that clearly unsettled them far more. I grew very calm. Is that so? I asked quietly, folding the documents and placing them in my jacket pocket. Interesting decision. My father frowned, clearly expecting argument, tears, or bargaining. My calm acceptance disrupted his script. You understand it's for the best, right? The company is successful enough now to support everyone. I stood and straightened my tie. Thank you for dinner. I have some work to finish tonight for the North Star proposal. That's it? You're not going to discuss this further? My mother seemed genuinely confused by my lack of protest. What's to discuss? As Dad pointed out, it's already filed, already decided. I leaned down and kissed her cheek. The gesture automatic and empty. The pie was excellent. As always, the drive home passed in a blur of streetlights and silent calculations. They had taken what was mine, what I had built, what I had sacrificed everything for. They had done it without remorse, without consultation, without respect for my role as founder. The betrayal was absolute. In my apartment, I poured myself a glass of bourbon and stood at the window overlooking the city. Somewhere out there were the offices of Tech Vantage Solutions, the manifestation of my dream, my labor, my vision. A company I now owned less of than the people who had taken it from me. The bourbon burned going down, a physical sensation that grounded me in the present moment. This wasn't just about shares or money or control, though those mattered. It was about value. My parents had shown exactly how they valued me and my contributions, as a resource to be exploited rather than a person to be respected. I opened my laptop and began typing. If they thought I would simply accept this new reality, they had fundamentally misunderstood who they were dealing with. I hadn't built a multi-million-dollar company by rolling over when faced with obstacles, and I certainly wouldn't start now. By dawn, I had a plan. The morning after the dinner revelation, I called Jennifer Patel, a business attorney I had consulted during our company formation. Her office scheduled an emergency appointment for 10 that morning. I arrived with the documents and a list of questions. Legally, they appear to be within their rights, Jennifer confirmed after reviewing everything. As CFO, your father has broad authority to execute financial and organizational decisions, including share transfers. The operating agreement gives significant latitude to officer actions. So there's nothing I can do to reverse it? The hope I had been nurturing deflated quickly. Challenging it would mean suing your own parents as a fellow officer. Courts generally avoid interfering in family business disputes unless there's clear fraud. This looks calculated, but technically legitimate. She removed her reading glasses. What's your real goal here, Blaine? Revenge or recovery? The question cut through my emotional haze. Both, if I'm being honest. They took what was mine. I want it back. And I want them to understand what they've done. Litigation would be lengthy, expensive, and might damage the company value in the process. If recovery is your goal, there might be better strategies. She tapped my folder thoughtfully. Who controls the company's intellectual property? I do. Most of it was developed before they joined. Client relationships? Who maintains those? Primarily me and our business development team. And who holds the relationships with key employees? A small spark of hope rekindled. I do. Many of them have been with me from the beginning. Jennifer nodded. Then you have leverage that isn't reflected in those ownership percentages. Think carefully about how to use it. After leaving Jennifer's office, I called Marcus and asked to meet at a coffee shop several blocks from our office. Marcus had been my first hire, a brilliant developer who had turned down Google to join my startup. His loyalty had never wavered, and his technical knowledge of our systems was unmatched. You look like hell, he observed as I slid into the booth across from him. Family dinner last night, I replied with grim humor. Found out my parents transferred 30% of my shares to Amanda. Marcus's expression darkened. Without your knowledge, can they do that? Apparently they can. And did. I sipped the black coffee he had already ordered for me. But I'm not going down without a fight. For the next hour, I outlined what had happened and my suspicions about their long-term plans. Marcus listened without interruption, his analytical mind processing the implications. This isn't just about me, I concluded. If they're willing to do this, what else might they do? How secure is anyone's position if family whims dictate company decisions? What do you need from me? He asked simply. Honest assessment. What happens to TechVantage without me? Marcus didn't hesitate. Short-term chaos. Long-term decline. Your parents understand finance and HR, but neither of them understands software development or client needs. Amanda understands nothing about business whatsoever. The major clients all have relationships with you personally. Most of the developers would follow you anywhere, including you. You even need to ask? He looked almost offended. Where you go, I go. That was decided years ago, when you gave me equity, when you couldn't afford it. The validation strengthened my resolve. I need complete documentation of all our proprietary code, development processes, and client specifications. Nothing they could claim as theft, just insurance. Already done per your instructions yesterday. Secured offline and in cloud backup only we can access. I also need a list of employees you think would be loyal to me, rather than the company if it came down to choices. Marcus pulled out his phone and typed rapidly. I'll have that for you by end of day. Conservative estimate is 60 to 70% would follow you, especially on the technical side. As we finished our coffee, Marcus asked the question I had been asking myself all night. What's your next move? First, secure what's mine. Then, build something better. They think I can always make money because it's easy for me? Fine. I'll show them exactly how I do it. Back in my office, I began methodical preparation. I reviewed all client contracts, noting termination clauses and renewal dates. I identified which projects depended critically on my personal involvement. I assessed which pieces of our technology stack were most valuable and least replicable. That afternoon, I initiated the withdrawal of the $2 million from our investment account that I had prepared access to the previous night. This wasn't company operational funds, but money earmarked for future expansion after the North Star contract. My father had insisted I maintain signature authority on this account. In case of emergency, this certainly qualified. The bank called within an hour to verify the large transfer. My father called 20 minutes after that, his voice tight with controlled fury. What the hell do you think you're doing? That money is for company expansion. Exactly, I replied calmly. I'm securing it for proper business use. Return it immediately. That's a direct instruction from your CFO. I'll need that in writing, with full explanation of recent share transfers for our financial records. The silence that followed told me he understood the implied threat. Any written communication would create a paper trail of their actions, something they had carefully avoided. We need to meet. All of us. Tonight, he finally said. I'm afraid I'm busy this evening. Perhaps next week after the North Star presentation? The artificial pleasantness in my voice conveyed exactly what I intended. I was no longer playing by their rules. Blaine, don't do anything rash. Family disagreements can be worked out. Nothing rash, I assured him. Just business planning. Like the planning you did with my shares. After hanging up, I made a series of calls to key clients, explaining we were experiencing some internal restructuring that might cause temporary communication issues. I assured them their projects remained top priority and provided my personal cell number for any concerns. Without directly saying anything negative about the company, I created a direct channel between clients and myself that bypassed company systems. That evening, I met with a commercial real estate agent about immediate office space availability. By 9 p.m., I had signed a 6-month lease on a fully furnished office suite that could accommodate 20 people comfortably. The space could be occupied immediately. As I drove home, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from my parents, alternating between demands, appeals, and vague threats. I ignored them all. Amanda sent a single text. "I hope you're not mad at me. This wasn't my idea." I didn't believe her for a second. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and registered a new business entity, Vertex Solutions, Incorporated. The name was close enough to suggest continuity to clients, but different enough to establish separation. Domain names, email accounts, and basic brand identity were created before midnight. The final task before sleep was drafting my resignation letter. It was brief, professional, and effective immediately. I scheduled it to send automatically at 9 the following morning, when I would be meeting with the first group of employees I hoped to bring with me. As I finally lay down to sleep, the weight of what I was about to do pressed heavily on me. I was walking away from a company I had built from nothing. I was severing ties with my family, perhaps permanently. I was leaping into uncertainty when I could have simply accepted the new arrangement and continued receiving substantial compensation. But that would mean accepting that I was worth less than what I had created. It would mean endorsing the idea that family could take without asking, that loyalty only flowed upward, never down. It would mean betraying not just myself, but everyone who had trusted my leadership. Sleep came eventually, but not before I had made peace with what tomorrow would bring. They had made their choice. Now I would make mine. My resignation letter hit my parents' inboxes at precisely 9 a.m. While I was addressing 15 of our key technical staff in a rented hotel conference room, Marcus had quietly arranged the meeting, inviting only those he felt certain would be receptive. I was direct and transparent about what had happened and what I planned to do. I'm starting fresh with Vertex Solutions, same industry, similar focus, different ownership structure. One where contribution determines compensation, and everyone who helps build will share in the success. I paused to let that sink in. I'm offering positions to each of you at a 20% salary increase, plus equity in the new venture. The office is secured, and funding is in place. We can begin operations immediately. The questions were pragmatic rather than hesitant. What about non-compete agreements? Our lawyer had confirmed they were poorly written and largely unenforceable. When would benefits transfer? Immediately, with improved health plans. What about current project commitments? Ethically completed, through proper transitions. End of one. Ethically. By noon, all 15 had accepted positions with Vertex. By 2 p.m., they had cleared their desks at Tech Vantage and relocated to our new office space. The exodus was executed with surgical precision, each person taking only personal items, nothing that could be claimed as company property. My phone began ringing non-stop shortly after my resignation email was delivered. I let every call from my parents go to voicemail. Their messages evolved over the hours, from confusion to anger to panic, as they realized what was happening. Call me immediately. We need to discuss this misunderstanding. My father, 9:15 a.m. You can't just quit your own company. This is completely unprofessional. My father, 10:30 a.m. People are packing up their desks. What have you told them? Stop this right now. My father, 12:45 p.m. The development team is gone. All of them. What have you done? The North Star presentation is in 2 days. My father. 2:20 p.m. Please, Blaine, call us back. We can fix this. Whatever you want. Your shares back. Anything. My mother. 4:05 p.m. By 5 p.m., the situation at Tech Vantage was becoming clear through reports from the few friendly staff remaining. Half the workforce had resigned, including the entire development team, 2/3 of project management, and most of business development. The North Star presentation was in crisis mode with no technical staff to finalize the demo. I finally answered my phone when Rachel, our business development director, called. She had remained at Tech Vantage, one of the few senior staff who had. Your father is threatening legal action, she reported. He's called an emergency meeting with corporate counsel. They're talking restraining orders, cease and desist, everything they can think of. Let them waste money on lawyers, I replied. We've done nothing illegal. People can choose where they work. He's also trying to contact all major clients, telling them you've had some kind of breakdown. Amanda is calling people crying about family betrayal. It's chaos here. She lowered her voice. I'm updating my resume tonight. This ship is clearly sinking. Send it to me directly, I told her. Vertex could use a good business development director. The next morning, I sent personalized emails to our top 20 clients explaining my departure and the formation of Vertex Solutions. The messages were factual, professional, and completely devoid of family drama. I offered smooth transitions for any who wished to maintain relationships with Tech Vantage while also providing information about Vertex's enhanced service offerings. The responses began arriving within hours. Most expressed concern and confusion. Several immediately requested meetings. A few of the longest-standing relationships simply asked where to send their next project without hesitation. Meanwhile, Vertex Solutions was taking shape with remarkable speed. Our team worked around the clock, setting up development environments, transferring knowledge, and establishing new processes. The energy was electric, a startup buzz combined with the confidence of experienced professionals. Everyone understood the stakes and rose to the occasion. 3 days after my resignation, my father showed up at the Vertex office, unannounced. Security called up, and I agreed to meet him in the lobby, rather than allowing him into our workspace. He looked haggard, the polished executive replaced by a man who hadn't slept properly in days. This has gone far enough, he said without preamble. You've made your point. Come back, and we'll restore your original ownership percentage. Too late, I replied simply. Vertex is already operational with multiple client commitments. You've destroyed everything we built together. His voice rose, drawing attention from people passing through the lobby. Years of work, gone in a tantrum over shares. I didn't destroy anything. I built something new, when what I built before was taken from me. We are your family. You owe us loyalty. The statement was so fundamentally backward that I actually laughed. Loyalty? Like the loyalty you showed when you gave away my shares, without even discussing it with me? That kind of loyalty? We did what was best for the family as a whole. No. You did what was best for Amanda at my expense. There's a difference. I checked my watch. I have a meeting. Starting in 5 minutes. Tech Vantage will sue you into oblivion, he threatened. Intellectual property theft. Client poaching. We'll bury your little startup before it gets off the ground. I leaned closer. Every line of code at Vertex was written after my resignation. Every client who came with me did so by choice. And if you pursue legal action, discovery will be fascinating. Shall we discuss the financial irregularities I've documented over the past year? The unauthorized transfers? The phantom consultants? His face paled. We both knew there were aspects of his financial management that wouldn't withstand close scrutiny. "This isn't over," he said, but the threat sounded hollow. "It is for me," I replied, turning toward the elevators. 1 week later, Vertex Solutions formally presented to Northstar Healthcare. Our proposal was streamlined, innovative, and backed by the same team that had impressed them in initial discussions at TechVantage. The client expressed concerns about the company transition, which we addressed transparently. "The core team that would have delivered your solution at TechVantage is now at Vertex," I explained. "Same people, same expertise, better company structure." TechVantage also presented, with my father bringing in contractors to replace the departed development team. According to our industry contacts, the demonstration was disastrous, with non-functional prototypes and obvious knowledge gaps. Northstar awarded the $2 million contract to Vertex the following week. The news hit TechVantage hard. Without their biggest potential contract and with diminished technical capabilities, the company's outlook darkened considerably. My father was forced to take loans against his personal assets to meet payroll. My mother called clients personally, pleading for project extensions. Amanda, reportedly, had stopped coming to the office entirely after a tearful confrontation with remaining staff who questioned her role in compensation. 3 months after my departure, TechVantage's valuation had plummeted to barely $2 million. They had lost over 60% of their clients and nearly 70% of their staff. Market rumors circulated about potential bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Vertex Solutions thrived. We secured 4 major clients beyond Northstar, brought on 20 additional employees, and implemented the profit-sharing program I had promised. Our team culture emphasized transparency, contribution, and shared success. Quarterly financial reports were available to all employees, along with clear metrics connecting company performance to individual compensation. 5 months in, my parents requested another meeting, this time at a neutral restaurant location. Amanda was with them, looking subdued and uncomfortable. I brought Marcus as both witness and support. "We want to discuss acquisition options," my father said after awkward greetings were exchanged. TechVantage, acquiring Vertex, or vice versa. A reunification of the business. The suggestion was so disconnected from reality that Marcus couldn't suppress a short laugh. My father glared at him. "That's not going to happen," I said calmly. "Vertex is doing extremely well as an independent entity. Family businesses should remain in the family," my mother insisted. "We can work through our differences. This isn't about differences. It's about trust." "You broke that beyond repair." "We made a mistake," my father admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. "We should have discussed the share transfer with you first. The mistake wasn't lack of discussion. The mistake was believing you had the right to redistribute what I built." Amanda finally spoke, her voice small. "I never wanted any of this. The shares, the job, any of it. I just wanted to figure out what I'm actually good at without constant pressure." "Then why accept them?" I asked directly. "Because saying no to them is impossible. You know that." For the first time, I saw a flash of genuine self-awareness in her expression. "You're the only one who ever managed it." The conversation continued for another hour, circling through recriminations, justifications, and tentative attempts at reconciliation. What became increasingly clear was that my parents still didn't fully understand what they had done wrong. They recognized the consequences had been disastrous, but the fundamental belief that they had the right to make decisions on my behalf remained intact. As we prepared to leave, my father made one final proposal. We'll sell you our remaining shares in TechVantage. You can fold it into Vertex. Salvage what's left. At what price? I asked, professional curiosity momentarily overriding emotional distance. Book value plus 20%, he replied, naming a figure that was still significantly above market rate for a failing company. I'll pay fair market value, as determined by independent valuation, not a penny more. That's highway robbery. After everything we put into that company, everything you put in? I stood up, placing money on the table for my portion of the meal. I built that company from nothing. You joined when it was already successful. You extracted millions in salary and perks. And when you decided Amanda deserved what I built, you took that too. So you won't help your own family, even now? My mother's voice wavered between accusation and plea. I offered Amanda a proper entry-level position at Vertex 2 months ago. A chance to learn the business the right way. From the ground up. She never responded. All three looked surprised. Amanda, most of all. I never got any offer, she said. Check your email spam folder. April 15th. The offer stands, by the way. Real work. Real expectations. Real opportunity to grow. Not manufactured titles or unearned authority. The meeting ended without resolution, but something had shifted. A certain acceptance had begun to take root. A recognition that the old family dynamics could not be reasserted through guilt or manipulation. Whether this would lead to healing or permanent estrangement remained uncertain, but the power balance had undeniably changed. When Marcus and I returned to the Vertex office, news was waiting that pushed family drama firmly to the background. A major industry player had approached us about potential acquisition, valuing Vertex Solutions at $12 million after just 6 months of operation. The validation was sweet, though we had no intention of selling so early in our growth trajectory. TechVantage filed for bankruptcy protection the following week. 1 year after founding Vertex Solutions, we gathered for our first company anniversary celebration. The open office space had been transformed for the evening, with catering stations, a small band, and presentation screens showing our journey from hastily assembled startup to thriving enterprise. Our team had grown to 45 people, including Rachel and several other refugees from TechVantage who had joined in the intervening months. The latest valuation put Vertex at $12 million, exceeding even my optimistic projections. We had successfully delivered the North Star Healthcare project on time and under budget, leading to an expanded contract and referrals to 2 other regional healthcare networks. Our reputation for technical excellence and honest business practices had spread throughout the industry. Unlike TechVantage's ownership structure, Vertex had been built on a different model from day one. I maintained majority ownership, but implemented an employee profit-sharing program that distributed 20% of annual profits among the team based on contribution and tenure. Key employees like Marcus received actual equity stakes, ensuring their investment in our long-term success wasn't just emotional, but financial. My relationship with Marcus had evolved beyond colleagues to genuine friendship and mentorship. He possessed technical brilliance I could never match, while I brought business vision and client relationship skills to the partnership. Together, we complemented each other's strengths and compensated for weaknesses. Through Marcus, I connected with other business leaders in the technology sector, forming relationships based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. These connections included several successful entrepreneurs who became informal advisors, offering perspective I had lacked when building TechVantage in relative isolation. Remembering my own early struggles, I established a scholarship fund for young entrepreneurs from backgrounds without built-in support systems. The program provided not just financial assistance, but mentoring, internship opportunities, and practical business education. The first cohort of 5 scholars had already begun working with us part-time while completing their education. TechVantage Solutions officially ceased operations 8 months after my departure. The assets were liquidated to satisfy creditors, with clients and remaining staff absorbed by competitors. My parents lost significant personal wealth in the collapse, including the waterfront home and luxury vehicles that had symbolized their brief business success. 3 weeks after our company celebration, I received a text from Amanda asking to meet. We arranged to connect at a neutral coffee shop the following day. She arrived on time, dressed simply, with none of the affected style she had previously cultivated. I almost didn't come, she admitted after we had exchanged awkward greetings. I've been working on this speech for days, and I still don't know where to start. Just say what you need to say, I suggested. No preparation necessary. She nodded, took a deep breath, and began. I'm sorry. For taking what wasn't mine. For accepting advantages I didn't earn. For being part of something that hurt you when you've never been anything but kind to me. The words tumbled out rapidly, as though she feared losing courage if she slowed down. I've spent months in therapy trying to understand why I let them manipulate me into participating in something that was so obviously wrong. And what have you learned? I asked, genuinely curious about her self-reflection. That I've been hiding behind their protection to avoid facing my own inadequacies. That I've been terrified of failing on my own terms, so I let them arrange situations where failure wasn't possible. She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. And that? I've wasted years that could have been spent actually developing skills and confidence. The admission was more self-aware than I had expected. What are you doing now? Working at a small graphic design firm. Entry level. Just like you offered. Actual responsibilities, actual consequences if I don't perform. It's terrifying and exhausting, and the most alive I've felt in years. She smiled faintly. Turns out I do have some creative talent when I actually apply myself consistently. I'm glad to hear it. I also wanted you to know, I've been talking to Mom and Dad about their part in all this. They're still struggling to admit how wrong they were. But they're beginning to get it. Dad especially, since the bankruptcy affected his professional reputation. I had deliberately avoided seeking information about my parents' circumstances, maintaining the emotional distance that had been necessary for my own healing. Are they doing okay financially? They sold most of their assets and downsized to an apartment. Dad's doing financial consulting, and Mom's working part-time at a friend's business. It's been humbling for them, but probably necessary. We talked for nearly 2 hours, carefully navigating the complex emotions between us. There was no instant reconciliation, no dramatic forgiveness scene like in movies. Instead, there was something more valuable. Honest communication, without manipulation or hidden agendas. Before we parted, Amanda asked the question that clearly weighed most heavily on her mind. Do you think we could ever be a family again? Even a different kind of family than before? I don't know. I answered truthfully. Trust rebuilds slowly, if at all. But I'm open to finding out what's possible if everyone is committed to different patterns. The following weekend, I met with my parents at their apartment. The contrast with their previous waterfront home was stark, but the space was comfortable, if modest. The initial awkwardness gradually gave way to substantive conversation about what had happened and why. We genuinely thought we were doing what was best for the family, my mother explained. We saw Amanda struggling, you succeeding, and it seemed logical to balance things out. By taking something I built without asking, How could that possibly seem right to you? Because we never really saw it as yours alone, my father admitted after a long pause. In our minds, TechVantage was a family business that you started, but we all contributed to. The fact that you had majority ownership seemed like a technicality, not the fundamental reality. Even though I founded it, ran it, built the client base, and brought you in later, even then, he looked genuinely perplexed by his own thinking. I can see now how distorted that perspective was, but at the time, it seemed completely reasonable. And what perspective do you have now? I asked. That we catastrophically misunderstood both the business reality and our relationship with you, my father said. We treated you as an extension of ourselves rather than as an independent adult with full ownership of your achievements. We lost sight of the difference between supporting our children and controlling them, my mother added quietly. With both you and Amanda, in different ways. Amanda mentioned she's working at a design firm now, I said, shifting the conversation slightly. My mother nodded. Without our interference, she specifically asked us not to contact her boss or try to help her career. She's determined to succeed or fail on her own merits. Good for her. The offer you made her to work at Vertex, was that genuine? My father asked. Completely. The same offer stands for her now that she has some real experience. Entry-level position. Real responsibilities. Standard performance expectations. No special treatment, but no punishment for the past either. And what about us? My mother's question hung in the air, the subtext clear. That's more complicated, I acknowledged. I don't see a professional relationship being possible again. The business breach was too fundamental, but personally, I'm willing to work on rebuilding some form of family connection if you both are genuinely committed to different dynamics. We agreed to regular monthly dinners as a starting point, with clear boundaries around business discussions, and with professional achievements or challenges being shared but not managed by others. It was a tentative beginning, fragile but sincere. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how completely my life had transformed in just 1 year. The betrayal that had seemed catastrophic had ultimately forced me to build something better, stronger, and healthier than what I had before. The company I now led reflected my values rather than my wounds. The relationships I was forming, both personal and professional, were based on mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. The greatest lesson wasn't about business strategy or financial success, though those had certainly been part of the journey. The most profound insight was about self-worth not being tied to others' approval. For years, I had sought validation from people constitutionally unable to provide it, measuring my achievements against expectations that shifted to ensure I could never quite meet them. True freedom came not from proving my value to my family, but from recognizing that value existed independently of their recognition. Success wasn't building a company they would finally acknowledge as impressive enough. Success was building a life authentic to my own values and surrounding myself with people who appreciated the genuine article rather than a performance of achievement. Vertex Solutions continued to grow and thrive, not because I needed it to validate my worth, but because I genuinely loved creating something valuable. The work itself, the impact on clients, the opportunities created for our team, these were the real rewards, not the approval I had once desperately sought. Sometimes, you have to lose what you think you want to gain what you truly need. The $8 million company I lost opened the door to the $12 million company I built, but more importantly, to the personal growth that no balance sheet could capture. I had built something authentic rather than chasing approval, and that made all the difference. Have you ever had to walk away from something you built to create something better? Would you have handled this family betrayal differently? Drop a comment below to share your thoughts. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more business journey stories. If you know someone dealing with family business complications, share this video with them. Thanks for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the greatest success comes after what feels like your worst setback.